Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Swadhin and today I'll be starting a new series in JavaScript that will be most asked interview questions. So let's get started. Let's start with the first question, that is, what is event bubbling and capturing? This is one of the most asked questions in every JavaScript interview. As we know, in our HTML, we form a tree-like structure. Means we have a parent element, like suppose we have this HTML is the root element, and then we have head and body will contain some more elements. So we have a parent-child relationship here. What do you mean by event bubbling here is, if you have three div like this, okay, and the right side you can see the HTML for the diagram here. We have three div, and that will div1, div2 and div3, and div3 is child of div2, div2 is child of div1. So they have a relationship of parent child. Means this is our super parent, then this is the child of this div1, then div3 is child of div2. So what is event bubbling in this case? If I will attach a click event to all these elements, means I will attach a click event to div3, div2 and div1 as well. When I click on div3, which is our child element, if I click on div3, first div3 event will fire. Along with that, div2 click event also will fire, and div1 click event also will fire. This is called as event propagation from child to parent. First the child event will fire, then the parent event, then their parent event, and it will go till we are reaching the window object, which is our root object. Okay, so this is called as event bubbling. And when I say this event will fire, I'll not click on div2 or div1. I'll only click on div3. This will fire first is own event, then it will fire div2's event and div1's event, and the event will propagate from one to another, from child to parent, and we call this entire flow as event bubbling. And by default, JavaScript support event bubbling. Okay, and this is the first scenario we have. Then we have something called event capturing. Then what is that? Event capturing is exactly opposite of what we learned now, that is JavaScript bubbling. So in event capturing, we have click event attached to each element like before, and this is the structure which is same as before. Here, if I click on this, the child element, that is div3, first div1 click event will fire, then div2 click event will fire, and then it will come to the element itself, that is div3, and that click event will fire. So it is here the event will propagate from the parent to child, and this is called as event capturing. And as previous, will not click on this div2 and div1, will only click on this div3. Since this two element as its parent, that's why first this will fire, then div2 will fire, then div3 click event will fire, and this is from parent to child, and we call the entire process as event capturing. And this is not the by default behavior in JavaScript, and this is very rarely used, but we can still achieve this thing with add event listener. And when I say this click event will fire, it's not only applicable for click event, it's applicable for all the event we have. Just I've gave an example using click event. You can use other event also. In that case also, this will be the scenario. Okay, and let's quickly move to the VS Code to learn more about this and look into it in a practical way. As you can see, I've created one HTML page which is having three div. Okay, we have three div which we discussed now, and I have given some certain style to identify this three div, like we have given some border, some padding and some display table cell, so that we can see each element clearly. So this is our div1, this is div2, and this is our div3. Okay, so let's add some code here so that we can achieve our event bubbling and capturing. So let's start with event bubbling. So for that, what I'll do, I'll add a script tag here, and the first thing I need to do here is inside the script tag, I need to access the element. Basically, I need to access all the elements. So for that, I can use something like var div, and I will use query selector, which is the method which we can access element, query selector all. Okay, and inside this query selector all, I can pass the tag name, that is our div tag. Okay, and so now I will get an array here. Okay, that will be containing all this three tag. Okay, that's what query selector will do. And after getting this tag, this will be basically array-like structure, HTML collection. So we can iterate over each div and we can access something. So let's iterate over that. So I have got all the divs. So I can use a foreach method here, the JavaScript method. It's a higher order function and it will take one function inside it. So it's callback function and it's a callback function, and I can write, and this parameter, it will pass each element as a parameter. So I'll just pass the div, I'll give that parameter name as div. So we get all the element individually. It will iterate through each element, div1, div2 and div3, and it will give us that element here. And to identify which element we are in, okay, first thing, we'll need to add a event listener, right? We need to add a click event here. So what we'll do here, I'll just first add an event listener, add by using add event listener. And in that event listener, this takes a parameter what type of event I want to listen to. In my case, I want to listen to the click event, okay? And inside click, and the second parameter for this will be a anonymous function, a callback function. So I can use arrow function here. And then this function will take a parameter as well. Okay, so basically what we are doing, we are attaching click event to each element. We are attaching click event to div2 and div1 and div3 also. Okay, and we have this div here. Okay, and what we need to do is I just need to show that which is got clicked. I don't want to do anything inside this click event. I just want to show an alert maybe. So I can call the alert method, okay, inside this, and inside that I need to identify which div it is. So you can clearly see that I have given different ID to each element, div1, div2 and div3. So I can use this ID property to identify we are in which element. So what I will do here, since this div is accessible here because of lexical scoping, inner function can access parent elements variables. So I'll just use this div, okay, and this div contain a method called get attribute, okay, and inside that attribute, what attribute I want to get, that is ID attribute I want to get. So I will just pass the ID here so that I'll get that ID div1, div2 or div3, and then after that I can concatenate something like clicked, okay, and I can give some space. So it will be like which element got clicked will get messages on the top of that. Okay, so as I told you, event bubbling is the by default behavior. We don't need to do anything for that. It is a by default behavior in JavaScript. So let's run this code in our browser in this page to see what is happening. So let's click on this div3 element, which is our child element, and we should get a alert for div2 and div1 as well. So click on this div3. You can see the first alert I got, that is div3 clicked, which is our main element. If I click OK, then I got div2 element. If I click OK again, I'll get div1 clicked element. And as you know, I only clicked on this div3. I have not clicked on div2 or div1. Okay, this is basically by default behavior of JavaScript, and we call this event bubbling. Okay, and as we are discussing, this is what happens when we click on the child element. The event propagated from child to parent. Okay, so if you have more than one, like if you have more parents here also, it will propagate even further also till we don't have events. This is called event bubbling. And let's move to event capturing. Let's achieve event capturing. And as event bubbling, event capturing, first thing we will very rarely use event capturing. Okay, so but still we can achieve this. To achieve event capturing, just we need to add a simple parameter to our add event listener. Okay, in our add event listener method, let me add the third parameter it takes is whether you want to activate capturing or not. By default it will be false, but if I make it true here, okay, if I make it true here and if I save it, well, now if I click on this div3, I got div1 clicked first. If I do OK, div2 clicked, and then div3. So it now propagating from the parent to child. When I click on the child element, I am getting first div1 clicked element is firing, then I am getting div2 clicked element, then div3 element. So now it is propagating from parent to child, which we discussed in the slide also. So this is about event capturing, and so it's very easy to achieve with add event listener. We just need to pass a true parameter to this add event listener, the third parameter, which is by default false. but will do very rarely use this one, this capturing, but you should know about that. Okay, so now the thing is, what if I want to prevent this to happen? Means I don't want, because I'm clicking on this child element, I don't want parent element click event should fire, because I'm not clicking on them, so then why it should fire it? So in those scenarios, we can still control over this by using a method called as propagation, stop propagation. So what you need to do is, inside this add event listener, okay, when you are adding it, in the arrow function, the second call by function, you get an event parameter as well, okay, and that is basically the information about the event you are listening to. Means suppose you have click event, so that information will be, those click event information will be inside this variable. So you can, inside that event object, there is one method called as stop propagation. If you call this method, it will stop propagating from parent to child or child to parent, whichever you are using. Maybe in capturing, it will only trigger the first element, that was div1. It will not trigger to the child element itself. So you can achieve that. So let's see that whether it is happening or not. So when I click on, let me save first. Okay, so let's save it. So when I click on div3 here, see, I got div1 clicked. If I click on OK here, see, there is nothing happened. There is no event for div2 or div3 because we are doing event.stop propagation. That will stop it from propagating from this parent to child, which was happening before in case of capturing. Okay, so now maybe you are wondering what will happen in case of event bubbling. So let's see that. So let's make this property false, okay, and make it event bubbling and save it. Let's try what is happening here. So when I click on this div3 now, okay, I got a first alert, that is div3 clicked, means this element itself. If I click on OK, you can see that there is no propagation and we are not getting any div2 event or div1 click event. So it got stopped with the first element itself. That is the advantage of event stop propagation. Means you can control this event bubbling and capturing also. So that's it all about event bubbling and capturing. I'll soon have another video and for the next question in JavaScript. See you there. Bye bye.